The Indian game begins by controlling the important e4 square with the knight, rather than a pawn. c4 builds a strong center by controlling the important d5 square and creates a square for the knight to come to c3 without blocking the c-pawn. e6 opens up a line for the dark-squared bishop and prepares to castle quickly, while preparing to push a pawn to d5 and recapture with a pawn if captured. Knight c3 develops the knight to fight for the e4 square and to control d5. d5 takes space in the center, attacks the c4 pawn, and helps control the e4 square. This maintains the balance in material with a good trade. He takes d5, recaptures the pawn, controls the e4 and c4 squares, and allows the light-squared bishop to develop. Bishop g5 develops the bishop and pins the knight on f6. The knight cannot move without losing the queen. c6 supports the d5 pawn and allows the queen to develop on the queen side. Queen c2 develops the queen to a useful diagonal and allows white to castle queenside. This kicks a bishop. This move puts the bishop on a safer square. Black develops the bishop and attacks the center. This creates a pawn chain, linked pawns that form a strong structure. Black develops the knight and attacks the center. This is the strongest option. Developing the bishop and increasing influence in the center. White develops the bishop and attacks the center. This attacks white's pawn chain. Developing the knight and increasing influence in the center. The bishop is kicked by a pawn and must now move or be captured. This offers an equal trade of pieces. This is the only good move. Castling kingside tends to be safer than queenside because the king is further from the center. This connects the rooks, which helps them work together. This threatens to tactically win a pawn. This is an equal trade. Recaptures. Very precise. Right on target. This creates a pawn chain, linked pawns that form a strong structure. With the rook now developed as well, black has all pieces ready for action. This threatens to tactically win a pawn. One of the best moves. This is the strongest option. A solid choice. This is not the right idea. There were worse moves, but also something much better. This is an equal trade. Takes back. This kicks a knight. This maintains the balance in material with a good trade. Recaptures. This misses a better way to move a knight to safety. This stops the opponent from being able to tactically win a bishop. Takes back. This move puts the queen on a safer square. This permits the opponent to eventually win a pawn. This is the way to win a pawn. This moves the rook to safety. That pawn was free for the taking. This threatens to activate a rook by getting it to the 7th rank. This offers to exchange pieces of equal value. After all captures, this is an equal trade. Recaptures. This threatens to tactically win a queen. This stops the opponent from being able to tactically win a queen. Very precise. This moves the bishop to a more active square, making it gain scope. This threatens to tactically win a pawn. This stops the opponent from being able to tactically win a pawn. Takes back. This is the only move that works. This threatens to kick a queen. This is the only good move. This prevents the opponent from being able to kick a queen. This misses an opportunity to pin a bishop to the king. Right on target. This is an equal trade. Recaptures. This steps away from the checking queen. A very strong play. This evades the check from the queen. This is the strongest option. This evades the check from the queen. Very precise. This steps away from the checking queen. Right on target. This defends the attacked knight. This is a fair move. This immobilizes the bishop by pinning it to the king. This threatens to tactically win a queen. This is not the right idea. This evades the check from the queen. The passed pawn moves towards its goal. White's bishop has moved to a square with greater activity and control. The Indian game begins by controlling the important e4 square with the knight, rather than a pawn. c4 builds a strong center by controlling the important d5 square and creates a square for the knight to come to c3 without blocking the c-pawn. e6 opens up a line for the dark-squared bishop and prepares to castle quickly, while preparing to push a pawn to d5 and recapture with a pawn if captured. Knight c3 develops the knight to fight for the e4 square and to control d5. In the Amin-So Indian defense, bishop b4 pins the knight on c3, preventing it from moving or protecting e4, and threatens to trade, disrupting white's pawns after b takes c3. Knight f3 develops the knight, defends the d4 pawn, and controls the e5 square. Castling gets the king out of the center and activates the rook. The bishop is kicked by a pawn and must now move or be captured. This is the only good move. This forces the opponent to double pawns. Takes back. This strikes at the center to fight for space. The bishop is ready to be developed to an active square. This overlooks a better way to defend a pawn that was under attack. This develops the bishop and gives it scope on the long diagonal. This fianchettos the bishop by placing it on a powerful diagonal. This creates a pawn chain, linked pawns that form a strong structure. Very precise. Both kings are castled and ready for the middle game. This threatens to capture a pawn and win material after the follow-on trades. This overlooks a better way to add a defender to a vulnerable pawn. This is the only move that works. The rooks can see each other now, allowing them to provide mutual defense. One of the best moves. Now white can't stop black from winning a pawn if they make the right moves. Right on target. That was a free pawn. This wins a tempo by threatening a knight and forcing it to move away. This overlooks an opportunity to defend a knight that was under attack. This is the only good move. The pawn is now adequately defended. This offers an equal trade of pieces. This prevents the opponent from being able to force isolated doubled pawns. This attacks white's pawn chain. White has got rid of their isolated pawn and improved their pawn structure. This is the strongest option. Recaptures. This moves the queen to safety. This protects the attacked pawn. This overlooks an opportunity to develop a rook off its starting square. This loses a pawn. Capturing while sacrificing the knight was the right idea. This is the way to win a pawn. Takes back. Very precise. Recaptures. Recaptures from a previous move. This activates a piece and simultaneously wins time by attacking a bishop. This leads to losing a knight. This wins material. This defends a vulnerable knight by pinning one of its attackers. This wins material. This wins time by threatening a rook and forcing it to move away. This wins a pawn. This move puts the queen on a safer square. A solid choice. This wins a tempo by threatening a rook and forcing it to move away. This defends a vulnerable rook by pinning one of its attackers. This threatens to win material through a tactic. This is an equal trade. Takes back. This creates a pawn chain, linked pawns that form a strong structure.